This is the Chris Project, where we discuss mental wellness, self-awareness, and mindset with entrepreneurs and experts. Set your perceived ideas and biases aside, and let's go on our journey for yourself, for your family, for the world.
Welcome to another episode of The Chris Project. I am your host, Christian Brim. Joining me today is Nicolette Nierras. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Nicolette, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christian, for having me, or Lord Brim, or Sir Christian.
Yes, however you prefer. I have a colleague that actually, he's older than I am by a couple of years, and he calls me Lord Brim. I don't know why, probably just to annoy me. There is absolutely no royal title or aristocracy in my lineage, so Lord is highly inappropriate. Nicolette, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
Wow. Thank you for the space, Christian, and for giving me this opportunity to share my story now. Let's go back to the young Nicolette, right? Growing up.
The origin story.
The origin, that's right. So 7 years old or primary school. Dad always told us, my sister and I at the time, just two of us, and then my sister, the other one came along a few years after that. This is his words to us. This was his words. He said, "Knowledge is power," and therefore I don't come from a well-off background, and this is what I can give to you, and this is your key to changing your life. And so I stuck to that belief and been an A student, valedictorian, got the A's, got the status. So I brought that kind of thinking into my adulthood as well. And every time I did very well on something, I would be rewarded. And that began my whole me tying my self-worth to the accomplishments that I have attained or the accolades. And I thought it was good because whatever it is that I set my mind into, I'd be able to attain them. And I could control those kind of outcomes when I was studying, but then in real life, it's not that. So 17, I left home, went to pursue university studies, and then started working at a very young. I joined the corporate world at 19, started climbing the corporate ladder, and I am a planner, was a planner, still am, but in a wiser in the sense that I wanted to achieve all of this, check those boxes by 30. So I tried planning my relationship, my career at the time. I knew that I wanted to get into business, but I just didn't know how. So fast forward at 26, I met my then husband, and we got together. I thought, like, this is end all be all. 2 years after that, everything came crumbling down. We decided to go in our separate ways, and I was at the height of my career as well. And so, get this, I was an A student, so I thought that the love department wasn't for me. So I focused heart and soul into working, and then COVID happened. Things started to fall apart again in that working department, in that work department, and that began my journey of unlearning everything that I've learned before, especially tying my self-worth to somebody or things, external validation. And then in 2023, because COVID happened, and that forced me to sit with myself. That's the first time I had sit with myself since I left home. So all the time I was with somebody. And now COVID forced me to do that, and I had to unlearn everything that I had learned before, in the sense that, every passing moment was just like that for me. But during COVID, I think it did on me as it did on all of us. I was trying to go as deep as I could to every single music, for example, that I listened to and put myself in that position. So I was trying to feel the depth of everything that every art that I could get my hands on, movies, anything, every picture that I see, just trying to find fragments of myself in those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Nicolette that I thought I knew, or I sort of curated, was no longer resonating with the Nicolette that is emerging. But I don't know what it was at the time. Who
Mm-hmm.
is Nicolette going to be? And fast forward, here I am right now. 200 plus episodes speaking with people across the world, and doing my own business. Kind of forced into it because I got laid off last year. But I feel that it is the universe saying to me, okay, Nicolette, you have a bigger purpose than just, because I was playing safe. I have to admit, I was playing safe. And I've always had this thought, because Tony Robbins has been my self-help guru since I was in my 20s. So I've always wanted that, to be speaking in front of people. I just don't know why or how, but influencing people. So here I am, one step at a time.
There's a lot of things I was thinking as you were sharing that, and thank you. I don't know that you said this in what you just described, but before we started recording, you said that you were an accountant, and when I started in my accounting career, I started with Deloitte. I had this manager, and
Ooh, I was with
he,
EY.
yeah, and he had a spreadsheet where I mean, it was insane. The
Can
debt
I
that he tracked.
interject?
Yes, go ahead.
I tried to project my financial up until I was 80.
Well, yeah, no. His whole thing was he had
And with
his
simulation, everything,
he had his
the model.
he had his retirement planned out, and like his financial budget down to like his kids' friends' birthday gifts, like the gifts that, like, I mean, minutia upon minutia. And I don't know how much time he put into this and constantly updating it. And at the time, I thought it odd. Now I kind of understand it better, but it is that control aspect, and I think a lot of people that gravitate to numbers and accountancy like the predictability of like 1 + 1 = 2. So, it's always 2. It's not sometimes 3, and it's not ever 5. Like, they like that black and white predictability. And, but, to your point, there are some things in life that are not predictable. I made the comment last week, and I'm sure it's not novel, but it seemed novel to me, was that there are no straight lines in nature. Like only mankind can think in terms of straight lines. We make straight streets, we make straight walls, we make, everything straight. But if you go out and look in creation, there's nothing straight. And that's by design. Like we think as entrepreneurs, okay, I have this plan. This is where I'm going to go, and this is the plan, and these are the steps, and this is how it's going to happen. It never happens that way. But yet we persist in trying to predict and control what that path looks like. But I don't know. It's as I'm sitting here thinking about it, like I still do that. We still do annual plans. We still do quarterly plans. We still have, but what's not baked into that model is what you don't know, and what's going to happen that you have no control over, like COVID.
That is right.
Like
that's right.
That's not on anybody's bingo card.
Such as being laid off.
Correct.
Like I never in a million years I would actually see myself as somebody who's going to be let go of. And when that happened, it was like, you know, like I was like a deer in the headlights. Like, is this really happening? But deep down, that intuition, that feeling that this is not right for you anymore. I kind of had that feeling at least a year before that. That's why I started venturing. The accountant in me kicked in and say, okay, you need an exit plan, you need plan B, plan C, plan D. But when that actually happened, still you'll get that shock. But having that, a degree of you being prepared will help. But there are also people who unfortunately do not have that cushion, right? They're just, and especially in the States where I'm at now, and I'm in Malaysia, Southeast Asia. I only knew that it is possible to dismiss people within 24 hours notice. And you and you at least for us, they give us like a month's notice,
Right.
unless it's based on misconduct. Then yeah, it's 24 hours. So I think, just to echo, the journey that I have been on, it's about a delicate dance between planning for something, but at the same time letting go and trusting the process. And it's so hard to do. I can tell you right now, it's hard. It's not easy, because I like to control, and we all creatures of control, but we don't know what we don't know. And I'm getting
No,
a bit
I think
spiritual.
no, I think I want to dive into your marriage if you'll allow, but I want
Yes.
to set this premise before I ask the question. I was having cocktails with my colleague who is has a doctorate in psychology. He had a business, had a very successful exit, and this is his second mountain. He became a doctor in psychology, and he's a therapist. And we were talking about marriage specifically, and he said, we are attracted to our partner looking to fill something inside of us, but we're not aware of it. We're not aware that that's what we're wanting from that person. And of course, that other person is looking for something from you, right? And it's kind of like two broken people are looking for that missing piece, and they come to each other, but neither of them are conscious of that's what's going on.
Yes.
So I have a lot of men on this show, and so I'm interested from a female's perspective about what that looks like when the marriage doesn't work. So, if you will, kind of tell me what that marriage, was a brief marriage. What was that like? What was that divorce like? What kind of open-ended?
So I remember praying. So in 2014, I just had broken off my relationship with a long distance boyfriend. And so 2015, I was by myself. It was okay, me being single. So yay, hurrah, go out. And then I kind of got tired with that going out, seeing people. I wanted to commit.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember praying to God and saying this: the next man that I'm going to meet is the one I'll marry.
You put that on God? Wow. Okay.
I know, right, Christian? So
That's an
I
ultimatum.
know. Oh yeah, and I take it I take it to heart, and I'm an extremist in the sense. And though there were red flags, friends came up to me. My parents did too. They said, "Are you sure, Nick?" Because my friends would have thought that at least Nick would be the last one to get married in our circle, but I was the first.
Okay.
And I really, your face is like, oh my god, she is. So I did, and mind you, the ex, we clicked just like that. It was like, oh, the when we first connected, it's like, oh my god, this is what I was searching for. But it's now in hindsight, in retrospect, it was now a marriage dissolving is not is often because of both of them. It's not just one person. I believe in most, at least 90%. Okay, because it takes two to tango. So with him, he had just gotten off from a very bad toxic relationship, and he was searching, and he found me, and I thought that, oh, I saw the potential in him. And get this, I actually said to myself, because he was really attached and he got attached too fast, I said this to myself: it's better for someone to love me more than I love them.
Mm.
Again, I know you're gonna judge me, Christian.
I'm
Go
not judging.
ahead.
No, not at all.
And
Well, but I think it speaks to what I kind of laid down as the premise here, is that we're looking for something from that person, but we don't know what it is. And
exactly.
I've been married 32 years, and we had some friends that were Indian that they had been married a very long time when we first met them, and they had an arranged marriage in India before they had moved to the United States, and had only met each other on the day of their marriage. And as a young person, I said that's very strange. But what I've realized, having lived marriage for 32 years, is that how you start is largely irrelevant. It's the process of experiencing life together and living that experience that develops the marriage. It's kind of like you end up in the same space. If and that's one of two things. You end up living separate lives. If there's kids involved, that usually manifests after the kids leave home, and you choose to continue to stay together, and you basically live separate lives. There's some connection there, but it's not the way it was at the beginning. Or you choose to live into that relationship, and it be beyond the there's a synergy to it where the sum of the parts is equal, is greater than the individual parts. I think that requires, however, the individuals to know themselves and know what they want out of that relationship. It can't be about fixing the other person, because you can't fix anybody. And I'm curious your opinion on this. I have two adult daughters, neither of which are married, but I see this mindset in them, and in a lot of other women, my wife included. Like, I can fix this. Like, I can work with this. It's not exactly what I want, but there's potential there.
Because we're nurturers, Christian.
I see.
We're meant to mold
Yes.
a kid.
Right.
It's entrusted to us. So when we see somebody, automatically we gravitate towards them and looking towards their good side. Whatever that's showing right now that is not that good, we can fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
But almost, if not all of the time, that will burn us.
Yeah, 'cause
Because,
you
like you
can't.
said, we cannot, yeah, you cannot fix anybody, and you cannot change a person until that person wants to change himself.
And I think that there is a lot of that change that occurs. Like I'm not the same person that I was when I first was married, and my wife is not the same person that she was. And that's neither good nor bad. It's just, we're not the same. I feel like my wife has changed me in some ways for the better. There are also things that I could look at her and say, well, if I weren't married to you, I would be different this way. Well, okay, that may or may not be true, but it's largely irrelevant because I'm choosing to stay with her, right? Like, and that's, I think part of it is acknowledging that the marriage, the bond there, what that is greater than yourself. And I think a lot of people go into it thinking that, they say their vows and they're like, for better or for worse, blah, blah, blah. It's not about me. But when the rubber meets the road and it's your ego involved, it can very easily not be, it becomes about you. Like, I mean, like I'm not getting what I want. He's not doing what he should be doing.
Expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So I want to add a bit to that. I think for me, in my case specifically, now having done the diving into why dissecting, the deep postmortem type of thing on what caused the divorce, it was amicable separation, but the ultimatum was again me having the ultimatum, right? The first time met him, okay, ultimatum, this is the one I'm gonna marry despite all of this. The second ultimatum was, if there is infidelity, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. There was, but I cannot blame it all on the other person because I too played a part in that. How? He didn't. Men really keep this to themselves, but they actually feel a lot as well. And
Don't tell anybody. Secret.
He said, no, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Yeah. A man feels a lot, okay, but they just this. So for him, I think he saw me changed from the time that we were dating. I was this fun person, and then after that, I had this expectation towards him, and he was not meeting them, and I was just nagging him. And so naturally, he gravitated towards other people who would give that safe space for him to, because he's also struggling. I was 26 at the time and he was 24. So pretty, pretty young. And we actually knew each other for about 3 months, and then he proposed. And then so it was like boom. And we didn't we got married a year. So that was, we met 2015. 2016 was, the year of us getting to know each other, but then also largely preparing for the wedding. Both at his side and my side, we had 2 receptions, and then 2017 was the wedding. So that we didn't really know each other that well. But like you said, how we met doesn't matter. It does to a certain degree, but how we go through, so the first set of challenge is this, how do we go through that? So for me, I had this headstrong, yeah, I'm kind of stubborn in a way, black and white. Um, that if this happens, I gotta cut my losses and leave. And I did that, but now I'm here. There is still this thing where I grieve over that loss, but my heart is now full and understanding that I did what I had to do at the time, what I knew best. And that was just operating from A, B, C, D, E, F, and not and um disregarding all the nuances that come with it, especially in a marriage, in a relationship. And mind you, this my the ex actually, he tried coming back. So yeah, I mean, there's no way you can just cut off like that, right? But for 2 years, he asked for my advice on uh, applying for a job at one of the big fours, and asked my advice on how to approach a girl. And I would, it was like 1 year, I think, few months after that, and so I think I was trying to be, the cool ex-wife that say it's okay, it's fine. Chris is so judge. Christian is
I'm
so
not
judging me
judging
right
you.
now.
I'm judging him. Like that.
No.
That's like that is so immature and selfish that you would think that you could approach your ex-wife with that question about about relationship advice. I mean, like what
And it was fresh,
what the
like
hell are
I
you
think
thinking, dude?
4 months in. Yeah, four
Yeah,
months after we.
yeah. Like I Yeah, no, I'm definitely judging him. I mean, I understand, and I appreciate the fact that you looked at yourself as, like, okay, how did I contribute to this? Because it would be very easy for you to say, well, look, he cheated on me. That's it. I'm the wronged person here,
Mm.
and you were. I think that but you can make a choice in that to say, okay, what can I learn from that? And I give you kudos for examining how you contributed to the marriage failure, because it's way too easy in relationships. Entrepreneurs that would never behave that way with their business as a victim will play the victim in their marriage or relationships, by blaming others rather than looking at themselves. And it's so in my example, my wife and I went through a very traumatic time 5 years ago, and my wife at the time had undiagnosed, but I think she would agree that she was clinically depressed, and she had a reason to be. Like, I'm not, but my perspective was that I don't know how to help her. Like, I'm trying to get her to go to counseling. I'm trying to be supportive, but she's not seeing it. She's in the midst of it. And so from my perspective, it was, I'm trying to help her. But I was trying to help her is the same thing as I'm trying to change her. And I was playing the victim, because it was like, well, I can't do anything about her. Like, I can't help her. She's beyond help, blah, blah, blah. That's a victim mentality. And I slipped into it and didn't realize it. Because at the end of the day, I am not a victim. I have control and agency over myself, my actions. And it at the end of the day, I'm the only one that I can control. So regardless of whether I can help her, I can help myself.
Yes. And when you said that, you were trying to help her because number one, it would make you feel better that you actually help her had if she had gone to those sessions. And number two, it would kind of suit your don't take me the wrong way, like this ego that okay, I am
Sure.
now doing something to appease this situation
Right.
and I'm still in control.
Right.
Again, that
But the reality was she was grieving. She was grieving her mother. She was grieving her sister. And, I no one can wave a magic wand and makes that go away. Right. And what hubris to think that I could fix that situation. But the reality was that she had to go through that and experience that and feel those feelings. Not to get this all about me, but like I had a trauma in my childhood where my default was, well, if someone's unhappy, it's my job to fix it, right? And so she was in the depths of I'm not happy, and I'm like, I got to fix it
because I'm her significant other, and this is my job. Yeah,
I can't fix that. You can go through it with someone. That's ultimately, when you have someone that's experiencing grief. That's all you can do is go through it with them. You can't fix it. You can't make it go away.
You cannot rush
No.
anything. You cannot rush the process. You cannot rush her or him. Now it's our job as the person who is, I don't know, I'm taking the subject of a caregiver here. You're the one next to your wife, right? Or your significant other, for you to regulate your own emotions.
Yes.
And now how do you do that?
Yes.
Right? Like not making it about you.
Yes.
And having that energetic, I don't know, boundaries that says, okay, she feels that way and it is apt for her to feel that way. How does that make me feel now? Am I affected because I'm not doing anything? And again, it ties back to your self-worth, right? Am I worthy of a husband if I cannot help my wife get through this tough period?
Well, yeah, and in my mind, like she'd also just gone through her own battle with breast cancer and had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. So it was
her identity was lost.
Right, and it was traumatic all the way around. But what I had to learn was that my feelings were not tied to her feelings. I mean, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard when you live with somebody and you share a life with them. Like, it's hard not to ride that wave of like, if they're up, you're up, right?
Yes.
But me getting to the point was of simply saying, okay, you're sad, you're mad, whatever, and that's okay. I don't have to participate. Like, it's not that I'm not empathetic. It's not that I don't care. It's like, but I don't have to be sad because you're sad, and I don't have to be upset because you're upset. Like,
and also the second role that we have to do, I think, is telling them in a way that is graceful that, okay, I am not tying my feelings towards however you're feeling today, and them seeing it from your perspective, because when they're in the thick of it, they wouldn't understand, like, oh, you're supposed to be with me.
Yeah, you're supposed to support me on this. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like,
I'm not just turn your back.
Right. No, but see, for me, it was like, this is how I'm supporting you. I'm keeping myself sane.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like and this didn't happen overnight. This is a couple of years that we worked through this. So like I had to learn a lot about myself so that I could healthfully help her. Like the way I was helping her was not really helping her at all.
You're helping yourself because only then you'll be able to help her.
Correct. And I think, my business coach, when I hired him, he came to me accidentally. I say tongue in cheek, but I didn't directly hire him. Right, he came along with a consultant that I had hired, and
the stars aligned for you, Christian.
God put him in my life. There's no question about that. And the first 6 months we spent talking about my marriage. We didn't talk about business. And the most profound question he asked me was, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Can I ask that?" Like, this is a marriage. It's supposed to be about self-sacrifice, and, love is sacrificial. Love is, right? And all of that's true, but, I'd never once, it was taboo. Like, what I want, but the reality was that I was still acting out of ego, which is what I want, right? Like, but I wasn't honest with myself and to say, okay, and because I wasn't allowing myself to ask that question of what I want, I wasn't being genuine about it, right? So just to sit with that for a few minutes or a few days or a few weeks and like, okay, what do I want? What do I need? What do I need from my wife? What would I want from my wife? And vice versa. Like, what does she need from me? Because at the end of the day, if you can't communicate it, if you're not clear on it, like how in the hell can they give it to you? Right?
That's right.
Wow. I don't even know what I want. How can you give it to me?
Exactly. Because especially when you've already spent at least, a decade or 2 decades with that person, the lines between two individuals become blurred.
Very much so.
Yes. And whatever that he or she wants, the other person to a certain degree has to oblige willingly and unwillingly. Depending on the communication, like how the bond is, how strong they are, and understanding, oh, does she really mean this? Does it really mean that? And, adapting to that. But we must never forget that we are whole before we come together. And that was my issue, at least with me.
No, I think you're right. I can remember this is when I was a teenager. I dated this girl for a couple of years, and one of my friends made the comment. She said, "Maybe you two need to grow up individually before you grow together." And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And looking back on it, I'm like, that was profound from another teenager, right? Yeah,
at the time.
Yeah, no, that is profound, and not that you can't. Like, we got married when we were 23. We didn't know anything, and then we immediately had kids. Like, we didn't have the opportunity to grow up ourselves, right, individually, and so you have kids and you're both focused on being parents and raising children, and there is that bond, that commonality there, that purpose. And then you get to, where we were, where our last child left home, coincidental to all these other things. And we had to grow up individually at, 50. Right?
It's full circle, right?
It's but you're going to have to grow up. You're going to have to figure this shit out. Whether you do it at 15 or 50, it's got to happen. And so But a lot of people, and I have a lot of entrepreneurial colleagues who have failed marriages, and you know, rather than choose to grow up, they've just moved on. And I don't remember the name. I think it was no, it wasn't Modern English. I don't remember the name of the band. But the quote of the song quote is, "You can run all your life and not go anywhere," and that's what I see a lot of people do.
Because you're gonna keep attracting the people that, that has the same wound as you do, or
A
the cycle is
complementary,
gonna repeat itself.
And entrepreneurs also use their business in the same way. Like, this colleague I was mentioning, he said, "I'm convinced," this is him speaking, he said, "I'm convinced that because of the emotional attachment issues that entrepreneurs have when they're young, they start a business so that they can control those variables. And they don't even know it. And so it becomes this coping mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a recipe for disaster, because they control the variables, they think, and therefore they don't ever have to grow up. They don't ever have to deal with, okay, what are those things that you felt like you didn't have any control over? What deal with those emotions, deal with that shit, rather than playing house over here and controlling all those variables.
You see, it manifests not just in your relationship,
Yes.
but it also manifests in all other aspects of your
100%.
life. So if you don't work on yourself, whoever's listening to this right now, trust me, there are things that they're gonna pop up and bite you in your, excuse my language, ass.
Yes.
After that.
Yes. That's not pleasant. No, I mean, I would not wish that experience that my wife and I went through on anybody. I would not voluntarily raise my hand and say, "Let's go do that again." However, it has set the stage for the rest of our marriage and our life together, that we couldn't do any other way. Like there's no way through it. Someone can't open up your head and pour all that into your brain. It doesn't work that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm
curious
thankful.
to know though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know though, Christian. So I mean, you got married when you were 23. I think my mom and dad 30. My dad's 30 at the time, and my mom was 23 as well. So, but the generation's different, right? And you have two adult kids right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what is their take on the whole thing?
On marriage?
Yeah, on relationship. I mean, they must have seen you both.
Well, and to a large extent, I think, especially, the last 5 years as they're coming into adulthood, it was like, well, I don't want that. Like that doesn't look like a lot of fun, right? And not really thinking about it in terms of what it was like when they were kids. I think both of them, both of my daughters, want marriage, and I think will enter into marriage at some point. I think there's a tendency, and I don't know if this is just the way God designed it, but like when we got married, I look at the pictures of our wedding and I'm like, those two people didn't know shit. Like they had no clue, right? But as you get older, it's almost like it's harder to overlook those things, right? Like to say, and just keep having your expectation be higher and higher, like and that's my worry for my daughters. My son, he's basically like, I need to get my shit together and before I can
That provider
right.
mindset.
I can't provide for somebody. I can't provide for myself yet the way I want. Therefore, I can't provide for someone else. So it's a different mindset, male, female for sure. But I think he would. I think he would want to be married. I mean, the conversations I've had with him, I think he talks about having kids, and so yeah, I think all three of them. I think there is a generational difference for sure. Younger people are not getting married as much or as young as they used to. And I think there are a lot of potential factors in that, but
That's another
that's
podcast
another,
of its
yes,
own.
100%. Nick, how do people, I feel like we could go on for hours. Maybe you could
Yes.
have me on your show and we can talk some
I
more.
would want, that is my offer.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to invite you on my show.
I would love to be a guest. How do people find you if they want to learn more about your work and working with you?
Okay. Well, everything is at www.the Holistic. There's a W in front of the H, holisticlifestyle.com. So everything is in there, my media appearances, my testimonials, my podcasts, and my digital guides and products and how to work with me as well. I'm also available on all social media. So
we will have those links in the show notes so you don't have to figure out how to spell Nick's last name. If you'd like, listeners, if you'd like what you heard, please rate the podcast, share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, remember, you are not alone.